Welcome to the Martial Arts with Jake podcast. Hear from the best martial artists and combat sports athletes from around the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Yes, guys, welcome to another episode of the Martial Arts with Jake podcast. Today I'm honoured to be joined by one of the world's best martial artists and teachers I've ever come across, Mr. John B. Will. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. And I think that's an exaggeration, but I appreciate
it. Not at all. So where did your martial arts journey begin?
I started in, I've told this story 1,000 times, I guess, but I started in school when I was quite young. I had a bunch of fights and stuff early on. So my dad taught me my first instruction was from my father.
Yeah.
But he taught me, things just how to hit properly and stuff like that. But I started wrestling, freestyle wrestling, when I was maybe 14 years of age. And that was just before, the whole Bruce Lee era. Yeah. So that's what I started in. And then kind of Bruce Lee hit the scene, and that kind of everyone started to do, Oriental martial arts. And then I began Taekwondo, some Goju Kai karate first, actually, then Taekwondo, which kind of took me through to when I ended my, what we call out here, high school, like year 12 in school.
Yeah.
So my schooling finished. And by that time I was kind of into it, a bit obsessed with martial arts. So there were some books written by a chap called Don Drager.
Yeah, my dad's got some of his books.
Right. Southeast Asian fighting arts and fighting arts of the Indonesian archipelago. So I read Drager's books and became inspired by that. And so I decided to follow in his footsteps, leave Australia when I was 18, or just before 18, actually, and train throughout Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, India, Japan, Mongolia, and I just wanted to do it. So I did that for kind of like just a mat rat from dojo to dojo, or training place to training place for maybe 8 years or something like that.
8 years. Was you going? Did you ever go back to Australia throughout those 8 years?
Oh yeah, I could get back when I ran out of money. So but your money in those days, and even now, your money goes a long way. And I was living, usually where I was training is in slummy, slum kind of very poor neighborhoods, because that's where the best martial arts was. And that, you could live on $3 a day, $3 a day, so my money would last a long time.
Yeah.
Then I'd come back to Australia and just do some menial labor job and save up enough and then go back. And I probably did 20 trips or something like that.
And where was your favorite place that you traveled to within the Southeast Asia?
I mean, it's all good, and what I think of it now is very different from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was all like a culture shock to me. Because even though Australia is part of Asia, it's still not. I mean, it's Western, it's a cross between, for the British people, it's a cross between England and America. So it was very foreign, and I did have a fair bit of culture shock. But I think maybe Indonesia originally. I mean, that's partially because I learned to speak the language, so I understood what they were saying. And so I got into that place a little bit more. Whereas when India and Thailand, I didn't bother. Or Japan. So I guess Indonesia, maybe.
Did you learn Silat as well whilst in Indonesia?
Malaysia? Yeah, lots of different kinds of Silat. Yeah, there's some grappling styles, some weaponry styles, some styles that were like a kind of a very kind of lowbrow MMA approach, meaning punching, kicking, striking, elbows, knees, takedowns, and some groundwork. And they were the kind of styles that I was attracted to, not to all the bullshit. There's not 95% of Silat's complete bullshit.
Was you blogging at the same time? Because I know you started Blitz magazine. So was you kind of writing at the same time as you were traveling?
That's very cute. There was no internet at that.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, I wasn't. So I did take notes. So I always took notes after every training session. So I've got, like 100 notebooks. But no, the internet didn't come about until, probably when BJ, it must have been somewhere around the same time as the UFC happened, 1992, I don't know. But it seems to me that BJJ, which is one of the things I'm well known for, came on board and got such momentum because the internet happened at about the same time.
Yeah.
And, it lucked out with the timing of that. And, when people discovered the internet, they kind of discovered BJJ and UFC. It all kind of happened around the same period. But prior to that, no, it was just traveling. However, I did start a magazine.
Yeah.
Called Blitz, which is the Australian martial arts magazine. And I started that in around, I don't know exactly, Jay, probably 1986 or something, because second or third issue in, I did an article on a guy who'd come out to Australia to do some surfing from Brazil, and he put up a challenge, $50,000, winners take all, no rules. And that might sound normal today, but it was not normal in 1986.
Yeah.
And everyone went, what the hell, and there was no such thing. So that kind of, I wrote a bit of an article on that. Of course, no one took up the challenge. No one had $50,000, a stupid thing anyway. And then it was me following down leads about who was this guy from Brazil, like what the hell? And in tracking that down, I discovered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
And who was that man?
The challenge guy?
Yeah.
That was a guy called Marcelo Bering.
Okay.
He's dead now. He got necked by a bunch of drug lords in Rio.
So where did you start learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Where did that whole story begin?
I started with I went over to Los Angeles and did some training at the Jet Center with Benny Quides, the Jet, and did a little bit of grappling with Gene LaBelle. Wrestler. So, and it was at that time, then I tracked down a couple of guys teaching out of their garage in Torrance, which was Horry and Gracie. And so my first 5 lessons were private lessons with Horry and Gracie's garage. And the 5th one of those lessons, he couldn't teach because he had to take his kids to Disneyland. And so he said, do you mind if my cousin teaches you? And that happened to be Rigan Machado, who was 18 years of age, who he brought up from Brazil to help him with his workload. So
what a step in for a private lesson as well.
Yeah. So I did my 5th lesson with Rigan, and I liked that so much, and we kind of connected and clicked, and we became friends. And when I went back 6 months later, come back to America with the intention of going to Brazil because I didn't want to train Horians.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason that it was just too expensive, because he only taught private lessons. There was no group class. There was no such thing. They only taught one-on-one, and then a couple of nights a week, we'd all of us private students would get together and roll, right? So that's the way it worked back then.
Yeah.
So I couldn't afford it because it was like $50 a lesson or something American, and very expensive.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll go to Brazil and training will be free, So I mentioned that to Rigan, and he goes, I'm going Wednesday, come with me. So, and we've been best friends ever since.
Superb. What was that experience like in Brazil then? Was it a lot of was it all the Machados all there as well?
Everyone was in the same room. When I say everyone, names you would know. Renzo Gracie was a brown belt. Ryan Gracie was a blue belt. Half Gracie was a purple belt. Then there was the 5 Machado brothers, all black belts. Helion Gracie, all in the same room. At that time, everyone they just trained. It was like a small academy.
Yeah.
And everyone trained together. Since then, of course, it's gone all over the planet, but it started. That was the Big Bang. I was sitting in the middle of the Big Bang before it went off.
How was it for you as an experience training them? Like, those names are absolutely huge. So how was it training and interacting with those guys back then?
Well, it was good. I mean, I just thought Rigan was my friend. I didn't know who they were. I mean, a blue belt could have tied me in a knot and did, and choked me out 20 times. So I didn't know how good they were. How can you tell?
Absolutely.
Now I can tell, but back at that time I couldn't. So I just thought I was with a bunch of guys. And it was only years later, like 5 or 6 years later, when I realized someone told me, don't you know who you're hanging out with? I go, nah, my goofy friends.
Yeah.
You idiot. So it was kind of like that. It was funny.
What have you got any crazy training stories from being over there?
No, I didn't train. I mean, there's plenty of stories, but yeah. To be clear, I didn't train there very long because it only took a couple of years for all of those Machado brothers to transplant to America. So that was way better for me because, I preferred to go to America because there was other things I could do there as well, kickboxing, and plus also, just everything was, I could speak the language, I mean, so I preferred Los Angeles to Rio. In a way, I could drive a car around and there wasn't kids on the corners with guns in their things and stockings over their head everywhere. So it was a little bit better. But stories, I don't know. One night, not long after I got there, they had a house up in Teresópolis, which is a town outside of Rio de Janeiro, where Carlos Gracie Sr., Helio's brother, lived. Helio and Carlos, if I'm not mistaken, they had a house up there or something. Certainly Carlos was living up there, Helio's brother. And some of them, the guys had like Crowley Gracie, he had a big farm up there. So all the Machados who were kind of great, they're all cousins. Machados are cousins of Gracie's. So they're all one family. So they jumped in a couple of cars, me, Henzo, Helion, all the Machados, and we all head up there on a Friday night. And I didn't know what we were doing. I'm just hanging out with them. I got nothing else to do. So we go up there and we go into the farm, this 2-story building. We're downstairs. We have dinner. And then one of them's got a dog, like an Alsatian dog. So Helion is a little bit crazy. He starts picking a fight with the dog. They're always picking a fight with someone. The dog starts going like this, and Helion chokes the dog out. I'm like, the dog's now asleep. I'm going, oh my God, you people, what? Who am I with?
Yeah.
Who puts the dog out? And then I'm kind of just getting my head around that. And they go, okay, let's go upstairs. And I go, I don't know what's upstairs. We'll go upstairs, play pool. I don't know what we're doing up there. Go upstairs. The whole top story was a mat open to the, with blinds that you could pull up, air coming in, giant tatami, maybe, I don't know, probably 150 square meters of mat with gis hanging on pegs on the wall, a bunch of black belts all just there. So everyone just grabbed a gi, we put it on and they train. And that's what we did all weekend. And that was like my first week or maybe my second week. So
what welcome.
Yeah, it was pretty warm welcome.
Yeah.
It's funny stuff.
So what about it? What was it about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that grasped you? Like you said, you've traveled the world training all these different martial arts, but what was it particularly about BJJ that was like, this is for me?
Well, for certain, I mean, the fights that I've been in, I got into, my share of fights not only in school, not because I was that way inclined, but I just couldn't take a step backwards. I couldn't take a step back. I didn't care if it's 20 people, it's suicidal. I'm not taking a step back. So that was in my head.
Yeah.
So I never backed off, and therefore things happened. And I got into and every fight I got into went on the ground, me on top.
Yeah.
My wrestling, ground and pound, takedown, ground and pound. And then when I started doing Taekwondo, I got into some street fights there. One night my instructor got beat up. We walked out of the school and a guy's gone headbutt, bang, bang, bang. And in 5 seconds, my instructor, who I looked up to, is now on the ground, blood coming out of his head. So I've just double-legged the guy, doing bang, bang, bang. Now they're both out unconscious on the ground. And I called the ambulance. So not every fight, but almost every fight I had went to the ground. So when I saw BJJ, it kind of went, of course, there's a ground element, right? So that resonated with me just from my experience.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started out, with no intention of getting a black belt, because it's the inconceivable. It was
Yeah.
too long a road. But I just wanted to do enough groundwork, enough control and choking people that I would shore up the hole in my ground game, let's say, because I thought I was better at stand up than ground. So I did that, but that was, and then with a very short amount of training, like, 10 lessons in, I was beating people that have been doing Japanese jiu-jitsu or traditional stuff like that have been doing it for 15 years. And I've done 10 lessons.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I should do 20 lessons, right? See what happens. So I kind of got sucked in. And I think with BJJ, the simplicity got me in. The fact that with hardly any BJJ, I had such an advantage if I could get it to the ground.
Yeah.
So the simplicity got me there, but it was the complexity of it that kept me there.
The chess game.
35, 40 years or whatever it is. So yeah, the complexity. You don't need all of BJJ for fights.
Yeah.
90% of BJJ's got nothing to do with fighting in, no rules in the streets, but nothing to do with that. That's not why I'm there. And anyone who says that they're into, this reality-based training and it's got to be in the street and it's got to work and it's got to do all that. Anyone who says that and is still in it, like, something's wrong with you. If you're doing that for 30 or 40 years, really, how many fights are you getting in? Like, none, two. If that's where you're putting all your money and all your time so you can protect yourself, and you do that for 40 years, it's going to cost you $60,000, $80,000 plus the injuries. But you would have just been better off taking the beating. So I don't think that that's a valid argument for doing martial arts just for self-defense. So I think there's got to be other things that keep, you and I and your dad and everyone into martial arts, and it's not self-defense. We might have started out like that, but that's not what kept us there. It's the social aspects. My friends are in there. For me, it's the puzzles and problem solving and endless unfolding of this complicated puzzle. So it's all of that. And then, what I can tease out of that to apply in my life off the mat, that's what's kept me in there for all the time. So, but the effectiveness of BJJ got me hooked. It's like, what hooks you in a relationship? Oh, well, she's got a good sense of humor. She looks nice. But that'll get you maybe interested enough to have that first date or two. But that doesn't keep you married for 35 years. What keeps you married for 35 years is a much deeper, connection with your wife. Yeah. So it's connection. Right.
And it's constantly evolving, isn't it, as a sport? So how do you feel Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has evolved as a sport since you first took it up?
Oh, yeah, a lot. It's evolved a lot. I mean, it's almost, to me, I came up with something this morning. With a couple of black belts that I was coaching. I just did something a completely new way. It's way better than the original version that I did. And I can back that up and give a rationalization for that. So it's endless. There's so much stuff that even if you're an idiot, you're in it for 30 years, you will contribute. But this is one of the good things, Jay, about BJJ. Everyone can contribute.
Yeah.
It's like decentralized. It's like Bitcoin, meaning that anyone, it's not like a top down. We don't all wait there for the grandmaster to come up with something. A white belt can come up with a little idea and you go, holy shit, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And then suddenly if it works, it'll spread, it's like through Darwinian forces, if you go in as a technique as a white belt and change a little bit and you tap people with it, everyone's going to start doing it,
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be a black belt. And that's what's pretty cool about it. Everyone can contribute to it, which is awesome.
And also, you see, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you have got white belts that are rolling with black belts. So the black belts are always helping out the white belts on the mats as well. You get with some arts who are kind of a bit funny about it. But with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're constantly helping each other evolve.
That's true. I was speaking to someone about this the other day about early training in Japan with Gogen Yamaguchi, a guy called the Cat, famous guy. And when I was at his dojo, as a lower rank, I wasn't allowed to score on you as a higher rank.
Yeah.
What? Like, I'm not even allowed to score on you. I've got to let you win. What planet?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Whereas in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the white belt is trying to kill me. Like his goal is to kill his instructor.
Yeah.
You know, that's his goal, which keeps every instructor honest, right? You know, and there'll come a time where your students should be not only giving you a hard time, some of them should be beating you if you've done your job right.
Yeah.
And they've trained you for 10 years or 20 years. I've got guys in my school been there for 20, 25 years.
And that's again like the beauty of jiu-jitsu. It keeps you honest. Because I've been striking Muay Thai since the age of 4. I started Brazilian jiu-jitsu when I was 20 years old. I thought I could handle myself. I got took down, triangled about 4 times, and I was like, "What is this?" And I thought I can have a walk out the door, forget that happened. But no, I got the bug straight away, and I was like, "I got to learn this."
Well, yeah, my experience was similar, except I probably had more of a mental breakdown than you did. I mean, because I got on the mat in Brazil, because of course the black belt's going to tie me in a knot. That he's doing it his whole life. I don't know anything. It's not, of course. But what happened to me was then a 60-kilogram girl who was a purple belt destroyed me. Now I couldn't take that.
Yeah.
That was outside of my reality. And I went back to where I was staying, and I was coming up with all these excuses. If I had bitten her nose off, she wouldn't have been able to do that. Like, just pathetic attempts.
Yeah.
And then I kind of shook my head and go, what am I talking about? Like, all of my martial arts ability, I'm reduced to that. Like, really, which would have been a dumb idea anyway, because she could have bitten me better than I could have bitten her because she didn't control. So then I went, no, I got to do it. But it wasn't easy for me. It was, it was tough, like challenging, scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when did you start taking it back to Australia and start spreading the word and teaching BJJ?
Well, I mean, I took it back immediately. I had a school back here based on kind of a SILAT school.
Yeah.
So, it was like a JKD kind of approach, right? Because I was always progressive. I was trying to cross train before cross training was a thing. I was trying to do wrestling and punching and kicking before anyone that I know. So I just knew that fights went to the ground. There was clinching, there was headbutts, and there was knives. I just knew all these things. So for me, if you just take out one part of it, so there was nothing at that time that combined it. So I had to try to, cobble it together myself in some manner. So I did probably a pretty bad job of that. But looking back now, a bad job. But at the time, I was like, wow, it's pretty interesting. But the Australian martial arts community thought I was stupid, for mixing my martial arts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was canned for that.
Really?
We're talking before you were born. Like, we're talking, in 1980.
Was it kind of you get your art and you kind of stick with it?
Yeah, 40 years ago, no one cross-trained, right? So, so that was kind of interesting. And then later on, some of those guys who canned me are now pathetically trying to teach some pathetic mixed martial arts. Which is kind of ironic. But I was trying to cobble it together myself. I don't know. What was your question? Sorry, I went off track.
So it was when did you start teaching BJJ?
Sorry. Yes, I started incorporating it in that school.
Yeah.
Because that was my original plan, right? Learn a little bit. So I was always incorporating it, but I didn't have a BJJ shingle up on my wall or anything like that until I got a black belt, which was in 1997, early 97.
And was it Rigan that presented the black belt to you as well?
Rigan, Jean-Jacques, Johnny, and Roger, all 4 of them.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That was about, I think the UFC started in 92. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's right. So yeah, I got my black belt 5 years after that. I was a purple belt when the UFC started.
Yeah. Was the wave big for BJJ in Australia when they saw the UFC?
Oh no, oh no,
No.
no, no. No, none in England either. England was
Yeah.
Australia was way. We were ahead of England. No disrespect to all my UK friends. It was just that I was there in Brazil before any other non-Brazilian. I was the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah.
So being the first one, Australia was actually the first country. I
Outside of
mean, well, America was only because the Machados were there.
yeah.
Australia was, you know, behind, just a touch behind America, or maybe the same because I was here. And then England. Nothing was happening in England, I don't think, until like into the 2000s, like up. But yeah, it took years until after the UFC. It was only after probably about UFC 4 or 5 that people started going, oh, wow, maybe there is something to this. What
Yeah.
is this? Um, so it didn't really get momentum until probably year 2000. I think it's 2000 onwards.
What were they like as teachers of the Machados? Because I've been to your seminars that you've taught at Wayne Stokes' Academy in Albury, his School of Black Belts
Oh,
Academy. And for those that are over that way as well, Wayne is the guy. If you want to learn kickboxing over the Albury way, Wayne Stokes is the
yeah,
man, School of Black Belt.
he's a cool guy. I
He's a
like
great
Wayne.
guy.
The Machados, I mean, first of all, you got to understand, I didn't speak Portuguese,
Yeah.
right? Carlos Machado spoke English, but none of the others. So whenever you're learning off people, and I got a habit being in Asia and being in places where I didn't speak the language, I got a habit of teaching myself, so I would ignore whatever the coach was saying and I'd look at what he was doing.
Yeah.
And that's always been my learning model. So I was never reliant upon what was coming out of their mouths.
Yeah.
I was relying upon seeing what they're doing and emulating that. But I was lucky because the Machados were very technical, very technical. I didn't know at the time, but they were very technical, super technical. And because there's 5 of them, they had very different kind of
All bouncing off
styles.
each other. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure and luxury of being able to, get Hegan's tight, flat, crushing game and Jean-Jacques, inversion, spinning around and kind of outmaneuvering game. And so I was lucky in that I had multiple approaches because there was all 5 of them.
I kind of find that with yourself, when I've been at your seminars, you kind of teach in a way that everyone can understand it. Because I feel like the schooling system, it's kind of like you sit there, you watch, you take notes off a board kind of thing in school. But I find with your teaching, you kind of teach in a way that kind of hits every different person's way of learning as well, which I find again in martial arts as well is brilliant because you get to see it, you hear it, you kind of get to talk through the technique as well. So it kind of hits every single way of learning as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, like if I ask you to draw an airplane, and you don't have any drawing talent,
Yeah.
then I don't know. And then I ask someone else, and then someone else. Those planes are going to look different. But if I do join the dots and I give them all to you, they're all going to come out.
Absolutely.
So I want to do that. I mean, that's one of 100 teaching ideas that I have. But that was probably my very first little teaching idea. I've got to break whatever I'm teaching down into digestible parts and then hold everyone's hand while I walk them through those parts and then tie them all back together. And now they've got the technique and they've got a relatively good understanding of the technique, as opposed to I just demonstrate the technique in the middle of the room with all the people around me. So that means I'm ignoring 50% of the room like an idiot. All right. And then I'm teaching those half, not them half, because they can't even see. And then I just demonstrate the technique a few times and say, go. And then don't even tell them when to switch. And then don't talk the second side through it at all. I mean, this is the normal teaching model.
Yeah.
Well, this is why most of the martial artists, they struggle because they don't approach the coaching with the same level of precision and detail that you would approach architecture or brain surgery or anything.
It's a different art
that
form in
matters.
itself. Communication, teaching, it's a complete different art form in itself. You can be as good as you can. I've known some of the best fighters, and they're not the best teachers.
Yeah. Well, they
Yeah,
didn't, that's not where they've done their study.
absolutely.
So I've done a lot of study with that and a lot of experiments, and having taught roughly 27,000 classes so far, I have taken notes after every class. I've got 27,000 notes. Like
Got a library.
yeah. So I'm making comparisons. Could I have done that better? And again, this week I did. Something I've taught 500 times, but I just said it a slightly different way because one person was not getting it. And then suddenly it worked way better. So note to self, from now on, I teach it like that. So you got to keep doing that. You know, you can't just turn into like an automaton and just automatically. I don't go on the mat and go into automatic pilot. Never.
Yeah,
I'm engaged. I'm into it. I'm trying to improve my coaching every single class. And if you do that 10, 20,000, 30,000 times, you're going to work a lot out about coaching.
yeah.
So that's been my approach, and I'm employed for that. I get work like specifically to coach coaches how to coach better in different fields, not just martial arts. So.
Amazing. How is the COVID situation back home as well? How have you coped with that?
We shut down. My academy shut down for 10 months. What a lot of martial arts schools did most is they tried to, they were asking their students to support them while they were shut down, and still pay their fees, and they'll give them some Zoom classes on stretching or something. I didn't do any of that. So I just turned everyone's fees off in February last year.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in that. I believe that leaders should eat last. Why should someone else look after me? Aren't I the leader?
Yeah.
So it always worried me that all these leaders are saying, "Please help me." What? That doesn't work with me. So I shut it all down, and then we just rebooted in January the 1st.
Yeah. At least you're back open now. It's amazing.
Everyone came back.
Yeah.
Instantly, everyone's back. Things going. A lot of other schools I know, they go, only half their students come back because their students are all pissed off. They've been supporting their so-called life coach.
Was that the longest time you've had off from martial arts as well?
I've never had more than 2 weeks off in my life.
Yeah.
So it's a long time. I didn't like that because I do love teaching.
Yeah.
I don't need to earn money anymore. On paper, I'm retired, so I just live off my, I don't know, it's a self-managed pension. Well, I don't know if you have such a thing in the UK, So I've been putting money in there for 40 years, like 50% of my wages. And so I've got enough money to live forever and a couple of lifetimes. So I don't need anyone's money. So I'm not missing the work. When I say missing it, Jake, I'm not saying I miss the work. I need the work. I'm saying I miss the interaction, the teaching. I like doing it.
Yeah.
Pretty evident to anyone, I think.
The camaraderie on the mats.
Yeah, I'm into it. So
yeah.
I like. So that's what I missed. But on the good point, it gave us a lot of time. My wife and I, we're best pals. So we would bike riding and walking, and I learned to make coffee. I bought a coffee machine. So, I did some things that I would normally not do.
Yeah.
So it was good, but I'm happy to get back to it.
Superb. So what does the future hold for yourself?
Oh, more of the same. I guess I'm just cruising along. I've got a lot of seminars. I didn't do seminars for 10 months. I usually do 120 seminars a year on average.
You do like a big tour, don't you, as well?
I do Australia. Like it takes me it's a couple of times. I usually do them on the weekends. I'll leave Friday night. I'll come home Sunday night, and I'll do 6 seminars on a weekend. 1 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, be home by 11 o'clock. And I usually do that every second weekend, but I haven't done that.
Yeah.
And I'm still struggling. I'm just starting very slowly because some of the states and the borders that if one person gets COVID,
Boom.
they flip their shit, they lose their shit and shut the whole border. Like some of them are very twitchy.
Yeah.
We've got no cases in our state. The number's 0. But if one person gets it, they go, ah! I mean, I think it's a way big overreaction.
Yeah.
I mean, where you live, it's an underreaction.
Massive.
In America, they've messed up badly. Our politicians and leaders have let us down. But in Australia, they overreacted, which everyone didn't like that. But at the end of the day, I've got to say, they killed it. They've wiped it out pretty much, but they won't let us leave. I cannot leave my country.
Yeah.
The border's closed.
We've been locked down again, 3rd time.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah.
But what it is, what it is. Life's an adventure. And
Absolutely.
People go, I want to live an adventurous life. Welcome, you're in it.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Rings looks awesome when you're watching it, but remember the troll was trying to eat you. Like, there's some shit that my wife's cocking her head wondering, what am I talking about? But people go, oh, adventure. This is an adventure. All right, you're in it. And if that means you can't go out and you can't walk around because you're locked in the dungeon, in a prison, it's part of the adventure. Welcome to the adventure of life.
Yeah.
Don't cry. Enjoy it. Read some books. Do a podcast. Figure it out.
That's what I've been doing. Trying to use my time wisely.
Yeah, right. So come on. When people flip out, I just don't fucking get it. You always make the most of every situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Adapt, improvise, overcome, and then you learn the lessons from it.
Yeah, and for some people, their lives improved.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of people have made a lot of money from it as well.
That's true. Some people have reinvented their businesses and all of this, and we're doing Zoom. I didn't know what Zoom was. No one knew what Zoom was. So it's all of that. But I look forward to. I got a few seminars I just planned last week.
Fantastic.
Fly here and there. So I'm just starting slowly, but I'll kind of the second half of the year. I'm hoping to be able to come to the UK, but at the moment they're saying in Australia, they say we don't think we're going to let you out this year at all. But now that may change when we all start getting vaccinated in 2 months' time.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. Jab me in the arm. I want to travel. I want to travel. I'm okay. Yeah. Stab me and let me on a plane. That's what I say.
My final question, I've asked this to everyone so far, is what advice would you give to a 16-year-old John Will, knowing what you know now, if you had to start again?
My wife says, marry this girl. That's probably the right answer. But I would have started BJJ earlier had I known because I didn't start till I was 30. So now I don't know exactly how that will work out because maybe I had to be 30 with all the experience to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't have appreciated it at 16. Don't know. What advice I would give? I would say this, and it's going to be weird for most people who are listening to this about martial arts advice. Save 10% bare minimum of every cent you earn and learn to live on the remaining 90%. That way you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 35 and you'll have every option open to you and do what you want. Money buys options in life. And people who don't have money, generally, it's not about the job. You can be a millionaire working in McDonald's. Just save 10% minimum. I'd say save 20. And if that means you're living on noodles and fresh produce that you buy down the farmer's market, then do it.
Yeah.
And save the money, wait till it builds up, then invest it, share market, tiny 5% in Bitcoin, some shares. And then when you get enough, you can buy a property, but it doesn't, because I'm not interested so much in that stuff, but not being interested should not preclude you from putting 5% of your brain on it. I'm also not interested in cleaning my teeth. That's not something I'm passionate about but I still do it every day.
Yeah.
Because you need to do it. And I think the money stuff is like that because, so I'm not interested. So not being interested and not being obsessed, because people who are obsessed with being rich will end up being rich.
Yeah, I saw your Facebook post earlier today about that as well.
So if that's all you want to do,
then you'll
be right.
Yeah.
But it's not. We want to do all this other shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So therefore, just get it done like a chore. And you do that by automatically creating that habit of learning to live on 80% of your income.
And that opens the doors for you to travel, self-improvement, investing in yourself.
Yeah. 35 years of age, you won't need money anymore. And that has a lot of ripple effects. One, you get to choose what you want to do. Two, you don't need to compromise anymore.
Yeah.
All right. You don't have to teach that idiot if you don't want to teach him. If he's not good for your school, I don't need his money. Piss off.
Yeah.
I'm not desperate. Oh my God, I got to teach arseholes because I'm desperate to pay my rent. I don't want to do that. So suddenly you're allowed. It allows you to be much more authentic. I don't need to do this interview. I do it because of one reason. I want to do it.
Thank you.
And that's a great reason, right? Not because I'm getting paid, not because I feel obligated. And I don't want to be that way with my school, my teaching, or anything. And what will get you that is some kind of financial freedom. So I think every martial artist, I didn't start doing that till I was 35. If I had started when I was 16, by 35, I would have been done.
Yeah, I'm 25 next week, so that's note to myself.
That would be the best advice I could give everyone. I mean, you asked my advice. That's what I've told my son. My kid's now 21. He's set.
Is he training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well? Everywhere, full time. Amazing.
Yeah, goes over to America, trains with Kai Terra, trains with the best guys. Comes back, does what he wants. He's going to be set. He's going to be financially independent by the age of 30.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because and he's done that working at Woolworths. Do you have Woolworths?
It's shut down years ago, but yeah, we had Woolworths.
Going right, Tesco or something.
Yeah.
So he's done that, not doing a fancy job. He's done that by stacking shelves on Friday nights and Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. Saved the money, invested it, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. So
it's not about, you don't have to have a 6-figure income job to do what I'm talking to you about.
Yeah.
You've just got to be disciplined for 20 years.
All in the habits.
A habit and over time, 20 years.
Yeah.
Start at 16, 36, you're out.
Fantastic. On that note, we'll wrap it up. Mr. John Will, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Please say, give my best to your dad.
I will do. Thank you for coming on. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to hit the follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button so you don't miss out on my latest episode. And for more martial arts content, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Just follow @martialartswithjake.